Another Saturday, another day of college football. And while you may be expecting the normal Georgia video, I had to go to quite possibly, in my opinion, what could be the biggest game of the year in college football in the entirety of maybe even sports. However, before I get into this video, make sure to like and subscribe, turn on that notification bell, help me out a little bit. And without further ado, let's get right into the video. Now, of course, this game features Michigan State and Ohio State. Man, oh man, is this one of the most exciting rivalries in all of college football. Years and years that Ohio State's really been dominating this matchup, but don't look back on Michigan State. I mean, they're still a really, really solid team. I'm going to get into Ohio State first, though. They are coming off a 59-31 blowout win against a very dangerous 19th ranked Purdue team who actually beat Michigan State a couple of weeks ago. Ohio State is currently 9-1, and their only loss to Oregon, which was really, really early in the season, and they are currently ranked 4th in the college football playoff poll. Now, of course, this game is huge for both teams, but definitely Ohio State, as this can not only determine the Big Ten Conference as a whole and how it's going to go down, but it can also determine whether the playoff hopes for Ohio State are going to slightly heighten a little bit, maybe, or maybe they just go all the way down the drain. However, Ohio State, getting into their stats and quarterback, they might have one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football, and that guy's name is C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud is having an amazing season. He's 214 for 311, 3,036 yards, 30 passing touchdowns on only 5 interceptions. Man, has he been an absolute stud this season. I mean, starting off the season a little bit slow, he was still getting used to the Ohio State offense. He was still getting used to the team as a whole. However, ever since that Oregon game where they lost, they have absolutely demolished everybody they've gone against. Now, of course, a guy we need to talk about is running back Trayvion Henderson. Man, he's been absolutely amazing. He is a freshman, and he deserves to be talked about. He has burst onto the scene and is a huge problem for any team that he goes against. And some people even see him as a Heisman contender as a freshman with over 1,000 yards and 14 touchdowns. Should I say it again? This is a freshman right here. This guy is a freshman, is already one of the best running backs in the entirety of college football. Now, Ohio State, getting into their entire offense, they might have one of the best statistical offenses in the nation, and maybe the best that I have ever seen. They average a mind-boggling 46 points per game. Ohio State is also dominant when it comes to yardage. They average 353 passing yards and 196 rushing yards per game. This offense is absolutely amazing when you try and wrap your mind around it. It is mind-boggling to score 46 points per game in a scene of 3 games. But for the entirety of a season, Ohio State's offense is absolutely deadly. And if you give these guys 1 inch of room, one little bit of momentum, then they're going to take it and run away with it. And that's exactly what they've done over the last couple of weeks. Now, of course, Ohio State's defense, it has been a concern. A lot of people like to say, oh, Ohio State's defense is bad. They're terrible. But I don't know. Surprisingly, they haven't been that bad. I mean, 20 points per game allowed is actually pretty respectable. They do allow 261 passing yards, but they make up for that, only allowing 107 rushing yards, which is 3rd in the Big Ten. So this defense is actually, they're not that bad. I mean, they like to say Ohio State's defense is pretty terrible, but in my opinion, this is actually really respectable when looking at the defense. Now, this rushing matchup is going to be huge because Ohio State's defense has been really good when it comes to defeating the rush of other teams in the last recent weeks. And of course, Kenneth Walker, the running back for Michigan State, is one of the best running backs in the country and might even be a Heisman candidate this season. So this is going to be a huge game for both teams on the defense and offensive side, excuse me. Now, of course, here's one problem. Ohio State's injury report is lengthy, really lengthy. I mean, Harry Miller out. Enoch Vamahi questionable. Jada McKenzie, questionable. G. Scott, questionable. Marcus Crawley, questionable. Master T, questionable. Noah Potter, out. Jake Siebert, out. Mitchell Melton is out. Cameron Babb is out. Jacqueline Johnson, out. Jensen Dunn is out. Josh Proctor is out. Tyler Friday is out. And Jalen Johnson is also out. That is a lot of injuries. And of course, you're going to see the whole graphic up here of what's going on. Some of these injuries are a little bit undisclosed. A lot of them that we don't really know too much about. We know a little bit about, but we don't know too much about. However, this is a ton. And when I say a ton, I mean a ton of injuries for Ohio State. Man, my goodness. I mean, that's what, like 15, 10 injuries? That's insane. Ohio State's injuries are definitely going to play a key part in this game, and hopefully they can make up for it. Of course, Master Teague, one of the guys that really pops out on that list, started off as a starting running back this season. However, he is most likely going to be out for this game. He is listed as questionable, though, so he could come back, and that could be either big or very, 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 very killer for Ohio State going into this game. Now, going to the other team, we have Michigan State. And Michigan State, they're coming off of a great comeback win where they won 40-21 against Maryland after being upset very, very, very shockingly by Purdue the week before. Of course, Michigan State, just like Ohio State, is 9-1. They're currently ranked number 7 in the nation, and they also beat rival Michigan a couple of weeks ago. So Michigan State, they're definitely a team that's not to be messed with. Now, of course, quarterback Peyton Thorne, the Michigan State quarterback, is having a great season so far. Of course, he's 173 for 273, 2,460 passing yards, 21 passing touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. However, the superstar on this team is a running back by the name of Kenneth Walker. Many people will argue that he is the leading Heisman candidate with 1,473 yards and 17 touchdowns on the entirety of the season. Man, this team has been absolutely great rushing the ball. And of course, while Michigan State's offense, going into the entirety of the offense, does not make near as much noise as Ohio State as expected, this offense still needs to be respected. I mean, 35 points per game is really, really solid when you think about the opponents that this Michigan State team has had to face. They also average 451 passing yards per game and 297 rushing yards per game. I mean, is that really shocking? When you have the best running back in the entirety of college football, you're probably going to average nearly 200 rushing yards per game. I mean, that's pretty expected for Michigan State as far as this year goes. Now, the defense is also respectable, but really, really worse than Ohio State, which actually kind of shocked me. I mean, I didn't think that this Michigan State defense would be worse than Ohio State's defense. Michigan State allows 2 more points per game with 22 points per game. They allow 329 passing yards per game, and they also allow 114 rushing yards per game. This Ohio State passing has been really, really good over the last couple of weeks, and CJ Stroud, we've seen when he's comfortable, he looks like the best quarterback in the entirety of college football. So this passing game for Ohio State has a chance to have a big day against a very, very struggling secondary that Michigan State has right there. They are struggling mightily over the last couple of weeks against a lot of great passing teams. So this Ohio State offense, they have a chance to have a big day. Now, of course, Michigan State, they have some injuries, but it's not quite as lengthy. Of course, Trenton Gilson is going to be questionable with a leg injury. Matt Carrick, questionable. Ian Stewart, questionable. Jalen Naylor, questionable. Jared Horst, questionable. Jack Camper is out. Anthony Russo is out. Ricky White is out. And Carson Castile is most likely going to be out. Again, that's a lot of injuries. Injuries are going to play a huge role in this game. However, going off the injuries, we are going to go to my keys for each team when it comes to winning this game. I think this is going to be the biggest game in the entirety of college football, quite possibly all season. And I think these keys are really important. Now, of course, starting with keys for Ohio State winning, they need to contain the rushing game. This should be pretty obvious. Kenneth Walker is a Heisman candidate. Michigan State has one of the best rushing attacks in the entirety of college football. You're going to need to contain the rushing game if you're Ohio State. They've done really, really good with that over the last couple of weeks. I do expect that to maybe change a little bit. However, you're going to have to contain it. If you don't contain it, Michigan State's going to run all over you, and it's going to be a really, really tough game. Now, of course, number 2, they need to keep the defense steady. Ohio State allowed 31 points last weekend. While they did win the game by over 20 because, let's face it, their offense is completely overpowered, this is not going to work against a high-ranked team such as Michigan State. I mean, if you give Michigan State a chance to stay in the game, they're going to stay. And we saw that in the Michigan game. Michigan gave them a chance to stay into the game, and Michigan State ended up shockingly winning the game. So Ohio State cannot give these guys anything. They are going to have to stay steady on defense. Number 3 for Ohio State, they've got to get the rushing game going. This Ohio State offense, let's face it, is completely unstoppable when they are running the ball with dexterity and they are running the ball with aggressiveness. Man, if they get these running backs going, then Ohio State can book this game just like that. They are going to win this game if they can get this rushing game going, because with the rushing game going, that opens the field up for all of these talented wide receivers, this super talented quarterback in CJ Stroud. Man, if they get the rushing game going, by they I mean Ohio State, if they get the rushing game going, this could possibly be a blowout that we're looking at. However, speaking of blowouts, we have to go to Michigan State, a team who I think won't get blown out because I believe they have a great chance at winning too. And their 3 keys to winning the game, they have to force turnovers. If you want to beat Ohio State and if you want to get their offense out of rhythm, you need to force turnovers. If this Ohio State offense gets in a rhythm, they will score 50 points. And I just don't believe Michigan State's offense, their run-heavy-ish offense, can keep up with that kind of score. They're going to have to control the game. Their defense will have to stay sort of steady, just as I said about Ohio State. They need to force turnovers. Michigan State has to have some big defensive plays today. Now, of course, number 2, Kenneth Walker must eat up this game. Kenneth Walker, Heisman candidate, he's going to have a big, tremendous game. He is the guy that gets this offense and really this entire Michigan State team going. Kenneth Walker needs to have an incredible game for Michigan State today. And ultimately, if he has an incredible game, I believe Michigan State will have a great chance at winning today. Now, of course, number 3, they need to keep Ohio State off the field. Whether it be the defense or long, sustained offensive drives, you need to keep Ohio State's offense off the field at all costs. If this Ohio State offense gets a little bit of a rhythm, it's going to be really tough for your team. It's going to be really hard. I believe you need to keep Ohio State's offense off the field as much as possible. Now, of course, going to my score prediction, I have Ohio State winning this game 31-27. I think Michigan State is a more than formidable opponent. However, I feel like Ohio State's offense is going to be too much. I think they will contain Kenneth Walker just enough to capture the win against Michigan State. However, whether my prediction is right or wrong, I think this is going to be one of the best games in college football that college football has to offer this entire season. I'm really glad to watch this game. I'm glad I get to report on this game. And of course, thank you guys for 300 subscribers. I just hit 300 today. So thank you guys for that. However, this video is going to end right now. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell. You guys help me out a little bit. Of course, links in the description, TikTok, Spotify, Instagram, all the other things. Make sure to go follow those. And whether you follow those or not, I wish that you stay loved and stay blessed. Have a blessed day. And without further ado, I'm going to end this video. Thank you for watching.
Wanna be rappers brag about already being the best. I respect many people for the job they've done. Haters full of jealousy.